everybody. Welcome back to Revolution in Beer, revolutioninbeer.com. This is Revolution in Beer on Can TV, actually.
That's right. That was a much better start
Second
than
show,
mine.
second season.
Yeah.
No, but yours is more informative. Mine is just more circus-like. Very quickly, last week...
Energy, though.
Exactly. Energy is everything. Last week we left you, we were talking with the folks from New Era Windows here in Chicago. It's a worker cooperative. So we wanted, it was such a good conversation, and there was so much about that conversation, so many details, we didn't want to leave it just 30 minutes. It was really important. So we wanted to come back and do another 30 on it, just to really sort of begin to explore that.
And as we promised in the past, we're about solutions, and not just talking about problems. And this is a serious solution in the making, I think.
And to show you how serious it is a little bit of inside TV. Brian and I are not wearing pants. No, I'm kidding.
It's hot. It's hot.
Bad joke. And that would be our director.
Hey, he was wearing a skirt at New Era's near the end of the last season.
I was dressed as Caesar.
I had to sit next to him.
So we had to be very, very careful that I didn't do any.
Don't complain.
No flashing of the audience there. So it was we almost went NC-17 on that one, but luckily we stayed PG.
Good camera positioning, guys. By the way.
Wanted to say I'm going to give Brian a little toast here. We're doing a local IPA where we sort of jumped. We actually started out a little hoppy in the last show with a nice amber ale that had a nice hoppy bite to it, which I wasn't expecting. I thought that was going to be a lot smoother. And this one really has a nice hoppy end to it. So it's a local IPA. Yeah, it's really good. And folks, drink local. Find some of these beers that really have some depth of flavor, that really have some character to it. That's what it's all about. You're going to get the bland stuff that, you're going to get the, boy, I hate to say this, and I wonder if we're going to get bleeped, but the McDonald's of beers. But go for these good beers here. Something with some local flavor and some local character.
I think last season you called it aquarium water.
Yeah, exactly. Hose beer. Put the hose in the tank, but these beers. The interesting thing about these beers, and I'm going to put our guests on the spot here a little bit because they're also doing non-alcoholic beers, and that's important too. And we want to talk about non-alcoholic beers at some point. But the thing is, these little craft beers, they put so much artistry and so much inspiration. I mean, people are literally putting together recipes and brainstorming over recipes and being inspired by specific recipes, and they're adding fruits and malts, and and there's a range of different kinds of malts you can get from all over the world, and different hops and all of this stuff. The character, the type of water, the hardness of the water, all of this, the type of yeast used that really makes these beers individual. Yeah.
And I'm not sure at this point whether I am more creative or dumber. Based on the conversation we had about the studies in Spain.
We did have that study about drinking 3 pints a year makes you 20% dumber, which I don't believe. I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Where are we? These guys actually, I'm curious. They're a little more responsible than us, and probably
20% smarter than us.
Yeah, 20% at least.
Drinking non-alcoholic beers.
So, based off of, but you guys have had some beers in your past. Like, how is this one? How's your non-alcoholic beer?
Actually, this one is really quite good.
Are you missing anything, or does it have sort of that depth of character? And
it's really a good
tastes
beer.
like a beer?
Yeah.
Good deal.
Yeah, the flavor is...
Flavor's there.
Perfect.
Yep. And St. Maria's Package gives us how to pick some good beers.
Absolutely. And we are on the south side.
Yeah.
At Maria's Package Goods. And we've got 3 great guests. We're talking from New Era Windows and from talking about worker cooperatives. We've got Dennis Kelleher, Ricky Maclin, and Armando Robles. Thanks, guys. And can I just give a quick toast and say, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having us.
It's a new week.
I'm going to make it across the table on this.
Salute.
And it's absolutely wonderful that you guys showed up again for the second week and didn't change clothes. That's spectacular.
Hey, when you're sweating this much in Chicago, it doesn't matter.
And the reason we're Revolution in Beer, the reason that we do this is, you know, there's a difference, there's a culture of sitting down at a bar, having a drink with somebody, looking somebody in the eye, and having an honest conversation, kind of breaking down those barriers a little bit. And that's sort of what we do.
Exactly. So yeah, we talked about the progression, the history of Republic Windows and Doors onto New Era Windows, and you know, new locations, worker-owned cooperative, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means and how worker-owned cooperatives can leverage themselves and also be more in control of their business decisions. So,
and one of the things that came off of that conversation, and I didn't want to lead people astray, was one person, one vote. So this is really a democratic workplace. Mm-hmm. And to somebody who's just looking at this and not necessarily initiated in the whole idea of worker cooperatives, that can seem from a business standpoint to be a formula for chaos. But it's not. There's a greater structure here. Dennis,
Sure.
you want to take it a little bit?
Sure. Well, you know, there is a greater structure. I mean, you know, the organization, the cooperative decides for itself how it wants to organize. You know,
Yep.
You could have a board of directors. You could have officers. Very interesting. New Era had decided early on that they were not going to have a president, but they do have a secretary and a treasurer. Actually, two co-treasurers. So it is flexible. It's not chaos by any stretch of the imagination.
Yep.
You know, the Center for Workplace Democracy, the organization I belong to, when we went through the training, one of the things that we talk about in the cooperative skills piece is how to hold effective meetings. Mm-hmm. Because yes, I mean, everyone now has a voice. Everyone is one member, one vote, and people have a voice.
Yeah.
So it's important, obviously, because you know we're going to have so many voices, to be able to have effective meetings, and that was one of the things that we covered in the training, was how to hold effective meetings. You know, because and the other piece was how to resolve conflict, because I mean obviously that's very important too. Now that everyone's got a voice, you know, is how, because conflict in itself is not bad. It's how we resolve that conflict is what is important.
It's a great perspective.
You know?
Yeah.
So you know, the worker owners of New Era Windows went through this training. So yeah, I mean, to your point, you know, to your question about whether it's chaos, it's not chaos. I mean, it's still very structured.
How are you guys? And that's a brilliant point. Conflict resolution on the floor, day to day. How do you guys come to that in a working environment?
Well, actually, what dictates it is the jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily a who's right or who's wrong, but it's a what's better for the business. Mm-hmm. So then therefore that keeps us a little more focused on what's really important, you know, which for us what's really important is our customers.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Armando, you want to take it?
It's kind of it's kind of, for some people it's gonna sound like kind of weird, but like he mentioned, it's what is the best for the whole organization. I know sometimes I'm not in agree with something, but we go by majority, and we go for a stand majority. It's not like 50% plus one. We go by 75%, sometimes 85% of majority. Mm-hmm. And even though I don't like sometimes the decisions, we do what majority decide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's the way we dress up any issues. Sometimes it's conflict, sometimes it's hard to accept the decisions, but the times is who give us the steps to follow forward.
But with each of you, with your own equal share of ownership, it's a little easier to accept and a little easier to move forward on a decision that the group makes, as opposed to having some sort of like top-down directive that comes from someone who doesn't even feel the obligation to explain the rationale behind their decision. So, you know, I think that seems to be one of the main advantages to a worker-owned cooperative.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, when we talked about conflict resolution,
Yeah.
it's also relying on a set of values and principles, which New Era had worked on in the development. It's always going back to that. What is best, and how is this conflict? How is resolving this conflict going to meet our values and our principles? So we're talking about, it's cooperative. It's a values-based business.
And I think critics are going to say this. They're going to look at this and they're going to say, well, there are micro decisions in business. There are macro decisions in business. The micro decisions obviously are things that can be resolved or dealt with amongst the rank and file. Who makes the macro decisions? And how does that process work to keep the business moving forward strongly in the marketplace? Who wants to take that?
It's depending on what is the orders, and so or the issues in the factory.
Yeah.
So we have to take care of the sales and buy whatever we need, and we have to be really careful to don't exceed budgets.
Yeah.
And it's the way we just take a decision. Whoever work in this area, he's responsible, but and approve of the rest of the people.
Okay.
So it's how we.
Ricky, I see you wanting to jump in here.
No, actually, I was just in agreement with
Okay.
what he was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, because ultimately, again, you have the worker owners that have control and say in the strategic direction of the business.
Sure.
And in a cooperative that has the training, that understands what it takes to resolve conflict, that has values that they can rely on, resolving these macro or even micro issues shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Okay. Here's the $1 million question, I think. All right. So Republic Windows and Doors.
Who's making $1 million here?
All right.
Not me.
The $9.95 question, because that's what I can afford. Republic Windows and Doors was going to close up shop and move out of the country and leave you guys hanging high and dry. They said over profits. Is New Era a profitable company?
At this point, yes, it is. And
Okay.
Republic wasn't actually moving out the country, but they was moving out of state.
They're moving out of state.
Yes, they was moving out of state to go and because we had some pretty good jobs in
Yeah.
Republic. We made decent money years after fighting for it. Mind you, it just wasn't granted to us. But once we got UE in and they taught us how to fight, oh boy, did they unleash some monsters.
Yeah. So Republic was a union shop,
Yes.
and when you guys decided to do what you did, was there compensation for the time that you spent occupying and trying to change the course of the business, or did you just take that risk on your own?
We just took that risk.
That's ballsy.
Well, I mean, my wife, at first, she wasn't in agreement with the decisions that we had chose to make. Like the going to jail issue. We had made the decision that we would go.
Did you go to jail?
No, we didn't, but
Okay.
we were prepared.
You were prepared to.
Yes, we were prepared to go.
And why was that important? Why was this important enough for you to risk going to jail?
Well, because for me, it was about dignity. Republic had pretty much taken everything from me but my dignity.
Wow.
So for me, that's what I was fighting for.
Right.
As a matter of fact,
So the line was drawn.
quick story.
Yeah.
Leah, who is still one of our reps, our union reps, she had asked us a question during the time that we were trying to formulate what we were going to do. This was during the time between the Wednesday when they told us that they was closing the plant and that Friday when they actually was closing the plant. This was like maybe Thursday.
Wow.
So that Thursday we were like discussing what alternatives that we had. And so Leah made a statement. She said, well, tomorrow they're going to lock the door. So your decision today is very important. Can you live with the outcome if you choose to do nothing?
Yeah.
And for me, that sealed it because I could not live with myself doing nothing.
Wow.
You know, I mean, because when the smoke clears, I still have to look at me.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm
That's.
too old.
I think that's important. I think that's important for a lot of people to know from an activist standpoint, or just from a human dignity standpoint.
Yes.
Is what brings you to that point? What is that line that that you'll no longer retreat from? That brings you to that.
Yeah. Because like I told my wife, I said, well, if I don't do anything, I lose for sure.
Yeah.
If I do something, at least there's the possibility.
Yeah.
And at least I walk away with my dignity and my honor.
And you won. You won.
We did.
Right. And now,
Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
All right, brother.
no, and you know,
You done, buddy.
it's now, you know, and to take it a step further. I mean, now they went out and took the additional risk of actually starting a cooperative business.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that, you know, we were talking about revolution. I mean, that's a revolutionary act to say that, hey, wait a second, you know what? We need to take control of how we work.
Yes.
You know, let's no longer be, you know, at the whims of a boss who could take our job to Dubuque, Iowa, or to somewhere in Mexico.
Yeah.
It's a matter of taking control of their jobs, and that itself was a revolutionary act.
Yeah.
So again, it's about you know, how committed are you to democracy? I mean, is this how do you see this? Is democracy some sort of abstract concept, or is democracy something that only applies to, you know, this great nation of ours, or does it dwindle down all the way to the workplace? And I think you guys are a really great example of what can happen when you apply the ideas of democracy, direct democracy, to the workplace. You know?
Yeah, it's amazing what you could do with democracy.
Yeah.
Because since if we don't unite in 2008, we'd never be successful. To win a fight, not only versus Republic Windows and Doors, it was versus the Bank of America, because it was linking the bailed out, Bush put in the whole banks in 2008, and the factories closing because the denied the credit lines for the factory, and not only it was like I mentioned, it was not Republic, it was against the big bank of the world big bank.
So you guys were in a hell of a fight.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we won.
The only thing that you could kind of predict was that you would go to jail for what you did.
Yeah.
Whereas the banks got an entire bailout, and we're still trying to shut you guys down. That's pretty respectable, I think. I mean, it's
Right.
And after our occupation in 2008, we have a tour around the United States and couple states, let's say like 15 states, and the East Coast, West Coast, and Midwest. We call the Victory Tour. We try to
Awesome.
spark the idea to occupy and duplicate what we did.
Yeah.
And that time it was really, really difficult. But I never expect the occupation. And first it was like the first I hear it was like the one on Egypt, and then the Capitol on Madison, and then the Occupy Wall Street, and then all over occupations. And one of the things is in my mind is it was like we occupy. Now we have the New Era Cooperative, and I see this as a future. Not only but to make this as a spark too, we have to make the New Era be successful, and then try to duplicate around the United States. And this is not only the future it's a future for workers, and even though it's a future for unions, because unions, they lose, the owners close factories, unions try to get the workers' benefits, but the good thing on our union, we run our union. We decide, and UE, we say, the workers run this union. So we decide to occupy. We take the decision to create a cooperative. Now we have the cooperative. And all over, in any chance that you have the ability to create a new cooperative, I'm pretty sure.
So you see this as a spark. That's lit a fire. When are you
Absolutely.
going to run for office, dude? Because I'm voting for you.
And it's the future for even for workers and even for unions.
Absolutely.
They're losing members,
Absolutely.
members and members.
So,
That is Armando Robles. Next to him is Ricky Maclin, and we're talking with Dennis Kelleher as well. And we're talking about worker cooperatives. And I also want to thank the hospitality of Maria's Package Goods here at 31st and Morgan.
Thank you, Ed,
who's
Maria.
been wonderful to us. I also wanted to say, stay tuned at the end of our show. After the credits, we're going to post all of our contact information. We're also going to post a lot of information about worker cooperatives because we would love to hear from you. We would really love to hear from you. This is supposed to be a community. Revolutionandbeer.com, and we want to receive from you any feedback that you have to offer.
Absolutely.
It's really important for us to know what you think, but it's important for us that you become part of that community as well.
should democracy exist in the workplace in its purest form?
Exactly.
And Dennis, what's the website for the Center for Workplace Democracy?
It's workerdemocracy.org altogether.
Okay. Great. So, and we'll have that on the bottom of the screen as well. And
Very nice.
we've got Armando's son Oscar giving us the 5-minute warning here. So, he's holding up in his end
He's
of the
working hard
bargain.
over there.
Yeah, he is.
He's a good man.
You should see the stuff he's been drawing.
Pay.
Yeah. Evidently, he's
Ben
been.
Houston, our director, we're going to have to dock his pay because he's pawning off the work to somebody else here.
Get this guy a certificate for his assistant so he can.
I agree.
So he's hanging out drawing pictures of the factory and everything. I understand, right? He's getting pretty good at drawing. So.
I did want to say before we get back to our guests, next week we're going to be talking to Chris Patterson. Chris Patterson wrote a wonderful book, one of my all-time favorite books, 21, The Epitome of Perseverance. Chris Patterson is a person that you need to know about. He's been through the criminal justice system. He's got a perspective on gangs and street violence right now. He's doing incredible work to stem the tide of violence in Inglewood, but particularly in Rogers Park, my neighborhood. And this book is a beautifully written story about his life and his experience growing up on the streets, making wrong decisions, recovering from those decisions, and doing important work for the community.
Taking responsibility and
yeah.
straightening it out.
And I've talked a lot about it in the past about Malcolm X as an example of the ability of one man to change. Malcolm X grew up on the streets, converted to Islam, had just transformed his whole life through to the end of his life. He was on a journey. It was an important journey, and most people, most historians miss the importance of Malcolm X, particularly after he did the Hajj and his journey and understanding his place in a broader context of humanity and human experience. That's very much the story that I got from Chris Patterson's work. So we'll be talking to him next week. And our friends at Stone Soup Theater are also going to be doing a play based on the book
Oh,
Epitome,
great.
21 Epitome of Perseverance by Chris Patterson.
Yeah, and you can check out revolutionandbeer.com and catch the episodes that we did with Stone Soup
Absolutely.
Theater Project at
Absolutely.
Lost Eras up in Rogers Park.
We have about 2 minutes remaining. Very quickly, I wanted to ask you guys the advantages of a worker cooperative over, say, a union shop or a top-down traditional, quote-unquote, company. Armando, you want to take it real quick first?
Yeah, the advantage we have is like we have our union, we still in place, UE, and we working our, the difference is like we do all democracy. We don't have to follow orders from one person who's making the whole money in his pocket. And the good thing is we are not working here for make big chunk of money. We want to secure our jobs, have a decent life, and keep working and generate workings for our communities.
Brilliant. I'm going to give you the final word, young man, before we sign off here.
Oh, okay. Thank you. The one thing that I would like to say is that for, I think, a lot of people, there's a fear of starting a cooperative.
Yep.
Financing is critical.
Yeah.
I would like to just say that there is financing available. If you're interested, you need to read, seek out, talk with, and find.
And you were going to give us those contacts so that we can share them with our audience.
Yes, absolutely.
Gentlemen, thank you so much. Absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
A pleasure. 2 weeks in a row. Thank you for showing up in exactly the same clothing.
We're trying to bridge the
Mr.
gap
Murray?
here. We've got coffee vanilla imperial porter, and so we're mixing the coffee and the beer, and it's a,
That's it. Folks, we have shot down another one. Show number 2 of season 2. Here's to the holidays, buddy.
all 365 of them.
Check us out on Revolution and Beer, revolutionandbeer.com. We will see you next week. Cheers.
I think we need to go to Spain. They got the study about
man.
whether you're dumber by drinking beer, and they also seem to set
I
the
would
mold
happy to be dumber in Spain.
for cooperatives, you know? Mondragon and
I have been to Spain. I couldn't have been dumber in Spain.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the catalyst. I'm waiting for the change, 'cause oh, it's gonna come. Yeah, it's gonna come. They've been saying it for years, for years and years and years, for years and years and years, and I'm so caught up on it. I'm so caught up.